So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this very important day in our district's history. Later this afternoon, I will read my official recommendation to the school board regarding the reopening plan for the 2020-2021 school year. Before that, we will hear from public speakers who are each passionate about the way they feel instruction should begin in the new year. I am appreciative of everyone who has taken the time to email or call the district or step forward to have their voice heard during our meetings. While opinions run the gamut, all of these people have one thing in common. They are passionate about our children and the future of education in Palm Beach County. With back to school just weeks away, I empathize with teachers who are anxious and parents, guardians, and students who are frustrated as we contemplate how to reopen schools amid a pandemic whose skyward trajectory has recently gained momentum here in Palm Beach County. I am in agreement with the Health Advisory Committee, which emphasizes the reopening plans must be driven by safety and science. Our decisions are also driven by data, research, and most importantly, community input. With that said, it's also critical for parents and staff to understand while the priority is student and staff wellness, the goal is to reopen our campuses as soon as it is safe. Make no mistake, as an educator, and more importantly as a parent, I believe to my core that brick and mortar schools are the bedrock of the most effective educational experiences. However, during this pandemic, we must commit to pouring all of our resources and the wealth of our knowledge into making distance learning a robust alternative until we can safely resume in-person instruction and ensure the welfare of our students and staff in both the short and long term. While I believe our educators did a remarkable job with distance learning in the spring, given the very limited notice they received, the disruption caused by closing schools on March 13 has been difficult for all students, especially those students with disabilities, our children who speak other languages, and just other children who just needed that special attention. For all students, the lack of social interaction is isolating. And for many, that challenge is compounded by the heartbreak of losing friends and family members to COVID-19. And my family has not been spared that at all. So let me be clear. The goal is to get students back in school as soon as safely possible. In a few moments, you will hear my proposed process as to how that return to campus will work, and the metrics which we will be used to decide when that will happen and which students will be invited to return first. Up until the highly anticipated time when we open our doors and invite students back to campuses, I give you my word that virtual learning in the fall will be much more robust and efficient than it was in the spring when our district and the districts around the country were thrust into remote instruction. The academics team has taken extraordinary steps to overcome virtual instructional challenges, provide continuity of learning for all students, and develop and implement creative approaches to the remote delivery of education and social emotional services. Equitable access to engaging grade level content and instructional rigor is a priority for all of our students. The plan also addresses the progress the district is making in achieving a 1-to-1 ratio of computers for students, and our progress in making free or low-cost Wi-Fi much more accessible than it was in the spring. I know with certainty that there is no one-size-fits-all plan. I also know with certainty that many parents and guardians will feel defeated or frustrated by the prospect of launching the new school year in distance learning. I implore you to think about this and what I say and take what I'm about to say to heart. My hope is that despite your concerns, you will encourage your children to make the best out of this situation. You, I, are the child's first and most important influential teacher. If you undermine an instructional method in front of your children, you run the risk of them feeling defeated even before we get started. We must all empower our children. I also recognize the frustration and fear that many working parents are experiencing as they wonder how they're going to keep their job if they are needed at home with their young children. Again, this is something else that I understand. You have heard the expression, it takes a village, and we are all in this together. In order for distance learning to be successful as possible, we need buy-in from the entire community. I am in the process of working with leaders in the business community to encourage companies to be flexible with employment schedules of working parents. My hope is that we will allow those of you who can work remotely to do so, or that they will provide areas for childcare at your offices. We will also work with nonprofit organizations to assist with affordable childcare options for school-aged children. On the local level, if you are a stay-at-home parent, I encourage you to consider inviting the child of a working neighbor into your home to take part in distance learning along with your children, of course, while practicing social distancing. This situation is challenging, but the situation is not forever. What it is a time to open our hearts and come together in support of our entire community, especially our children. To our parents and guardians who will be home with your children and helping to ensure that your child is learning, please remember your students